It all happened in the dead of night. In the first few hours of a June morning in 2025, the world woke up to silence, and then to shock. A series of perfectly coordinated airstrikes had just done the unthinkable. They had wiped out decades of work in a matter of hours. Iran's most secure nuclear sites, the ones buried under mountains, shielded by layers of concrete and steel, were burning. The Fordo enrichment plant, the massive Natanz complex, the research facility at Isfahan, all hit, all crippled. An ambition that had pushed the Middle East to the edge of war for a generation was, just like that, in ruins. It was a joint U.S.-Israeli operation, the code names that sounded straight out of a movie. Operation Midnight Hammer and Operation Rising Lion. The mission was designed to do what many experts thought was impossible: destroy heavily fortified targets buried deep underground. The Fordo plant, built deep inside a mountain, was supposed to be Iran's trump card, its most secure facility. To crack it, the U.S. brought out the big guns. The GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator. It's a 30,000-pound bunker-busting bomb. B-2 stealth bombers dropped these monsters, which punched through rock and reinforced concrete before exploding deep inside. Across the Middle East, armies were put on their highest alert. For days, nobody knew what to believe. An early shaky U.S. intelligence report suggested the setback to Iran's program might only be a few months. If you want to keep up with what's happening and understand where we go from here, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. But the White House and other top officials immediately pushed back, citing newer intelligence that said the program was set back by years. With key facilities needing to be rebuilt from the ground up, satellite photos later showed massive craters on the mountainside and confirmed the entrances to the underground halls were completely sealed. Behind the scenes, though, they launched a massive security crackdown, arresting hundreds of Iranians to crush any dissent. By ditching the IAEA and threatening to leave the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the regime is choosing total isolation. But they also showed the incredible risk of starting a fire you can't control. The entire Middle East is now sitting on a knife's edge, waiting to see if and how Iran will retaliate and how the world will react when it does. This kills any last hope for diplomacy and ends the international oversight that gave us at least some idea of what they were up to. The attacks of June 2025 didn't end Iran's nuclear story. They just closed a chapter. We've traded a threat we could see and monitor for one that's now hidden in the shadows. Got the hardware, the centrifuges, the concrete, the steel might be gone. But the ambition, the knowledge, and the bitter distrust that fueled this crisis for 50 years are stronger than ever. The world is now left to wonder, not if Iran will try to rebuild, but where and when. We'll discover that it already has. From now on, whatever Iran does next with its nuclear ambitions, it will be done in complete darkness. Top leaders, including the Supreme Leader himself, reportedly fled to secure bunkers, cutting off communication. It's just a different, more unpredictable kind of dangerous. At the same time, Iran's parliament rushed through a bill to suspend all cooperation with the IAEA, basically threatening to go completely dark. The attack hadn't just destroyed buildings. It had thrown a whole nation and the world into a freefall of uncertainty. First, you can destroy buildings, but you can't destroy knowledge. Iran's scientists still have the expertise to enrich uranium. Now, the strikes might just push their work further underground into smaller secret labs that are almost impossible for inspectors to find. This is the story of how it all went down. The goal wasn't just to break things, it was to completely dismantle the production line from converting uranium at Isfahan to enriching it at Natanz and Fordo. In just a few hours, they had effectively erased Iran's entire centrifuge program. It will likely take years for Tehran to rebuild its capabilities, assuming the US and Israel would even let them try. The immediate threat of an Iranian bomb seems to be off the table. They targeted the electrical grids and backup generators at Natanz, instantly plunging the facility into darkness. For the thousands of super-delicate centrifuges spinning at insane speeds inside, it was a death sentence. As the head of the IAEA, Rafael Grossi, later explained, these machines are so fragile that even tiny vibrations can shatter them. Iranian state media admitted something had happened but insisted the damage was minimal. Officials claimed no radiation had leaked, and that they'd cleverly moved their enriched uranium stockpiles before the strikes. But the reality was obviously much worse. The IAEA quickly confirmed the sites were hit hard and that the centrifuges at Fordo had gone silent. A sudden power outage would have caused a catastrophic chain reaction of self-destruction. How the attack was planned, how it was carried out, and what its terrifying aftermath means for all of us. Iran's nuclear journey actually started peacefully back in the 1950s with Western help. But after the 1979 Islamic Revolution, the program started looking a lot more ominous. Tehran swore its goals were peaceful, but the rest of the world wasn't so sure. Secret facilities and a total lack of transparency set off alarm bells, kicking off a diplomatic crisis that would last for decades. So, how on earth did it come to this? It's a story of ambition, deep mistrust, and a series of broken promises. The best shot at peace came in 2015 with the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA. The IAEA said its inspectors were being blocked and that Iran just wasn't cooperating, fueling fears that a secret weapons program was already in motion. For both Israel and the United States, a red line had been crossed. Diplomacy had failed. It made a choice. The risk of a nuclear-armed Iran was now officially worse than the risk of starting a war. It seemed like a breakthrough. Iran agreed to serious limits on its nuclear work in exchange for lifting crippling economic sanctions. But then, in 2018, the United States pulled out, slapped sanctions back on, and the whole thing fell apart. Feeling betrayed, Iran started breaking the rules it had agreed to. Enrichment levels started creeping up, first to 20%, then to a terrifying 60% purity, a level that has no real civilian use. The International Atomic Energy Agency even warned that Iran was the only country without nuclear weapons that was enriching uranium to such a high level. By early 2025, the tension was unbearable. Iran's breakout time, how long it would need to make enough weapons-grade fuel for one bomb, was basically zero. The strike itself was a terrifying display of military power. The first wave, reportedly led by the Israelis, was all about cutting the power. But the main event was the direct hit on the underground fortresses. At the same time, Natanz was getting pounded by bunker busters. And the Esfahan Research Center was hit with over 24 Tomahawk cruise missiles. In the moments after the attack, it was pure chaos. The world held its breath. The UN Security Council scrambled for an emergency meeting. Global stock markets went into a nosedive. Inside Iran, the regime went into damage control. Publicly, leaders talked tough, with the foreign minister threatening everlasting consequences. The dust from this attack is still settling, and this story is a long way from over. So what does the world look like now? You might think it's a safer place without Iran's known nuclear facilities. It's not. Sure, the main goal of the strikes was met. Iran's path to a nuclear weapon has been blocked, at least for now. But the attack has created a whole new set of nightmares. Second, Iran's response has been to slam the door on the rest of the world. And finally, the strikes set a dangerous precedent. They showed that a country's nuclear program can be taken out by force. The smoke may have cleared over Fordo and Natanz, but the fire is far from out.